Hi, we'll be getting started in about 2 minutes, hopefully. All right. Um,
It's iron stone.
No, so basically, everyone says, is that who you work for? No, it's my guru son-in-law who set me up. I
There you
didn't
go.
think fast enough to say, no, make it at Tillman.com. Instead, it got my son-in-law. After a few months, it became too bothersome to change it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna forward you this email that has 2 Google Drive links.
Okay, and again, it's L is in, it was in more stone, Montreal.
Ebenezer, do you mind just promoting Julio Batista?
Yes, I just did.
Thank you.
Anybody else that you want me to promote?
Are any of the, I'm just looking for the person from Yeshiva. I don't know if she's coming tonight. Okay. Hi. You guys are gonna sign in back there. All right. I'm gonna call this meeting to order. It's 7:03. This is the March 4th
Well, if you want to read
meeting of,
back, that's okay.
sorry, we're gonna get started now, so. This is March 4th, meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Committee. I'm the chair. My name is Debbie Nabavian. Our assistant chair, had, something come up, so I don't know that he will be here. Can somebody volunteer to take notes tonight? I can try to take some, I mean, I'll. You take some, I'll try to take some, okay, yeah, we'll put it together, thank you. From the committee tonight, we have, to my right, James Bosley, to my left, Jody Pearson, Robin Cruz, Jim Berlin, and that's it for now. I'll just keep an eye out if Mary or Leo are able to.
Mary's probably still.
Another Mary, are you a
Okay.
Mary?
Oh, I thought you meant for the Zoom meeting.
I believe Mary's still in Aruba.
Oh, right. Good for her. That's right. I should know better by now. Okay. And Bruce, no? Oh, that's right. He didn't contact me. So yeah, well, although I have a feeling if he shows up, maybe he will turn up here in person. All right. So we're gonna start out today. The first item on the agenda is, I asked Amber Charter School to come by and talk to us about how things are going and, since the school opened, people have had their eyes on particularly the morning drop off. Those streets where Amber is located are not really built for, a lot of vehicular drop-offs in a short amount of time. And I know everybody's been contending with congestion and backups, particularly in the morning hours. So I know we have a number of people in the attendee list, who are here from the Park Terrace area. But I thought what I would do is start with Amber, and I've just realized, did you send slides? Ebenezer, do I have those slides?
Come to the office.
I'm sorry, David, what do you need?
The slides that Amber sent over, they just put together a few things that they wanted to share, just to open up.
Okay, well, I don't have it with me,
How,
but
oh,
we can
it might have
promote it.
gone. No, no,
Pass it, we
actually,
can promote it.
it's just they're here in person, so let
Okay,
me,
let me be there.
sorry, just give me. And when did you send that over?
Devil,
What?
Like at 6:30.
their name came up,
Oh, tonight. Oh, okay.
that you hadn't reported in one way or the other, but here you are, so now we know. Thank you. Welcome.
I'll go down there.
Go down there.
Go down.
To the owl.
Bruce. Sorry I'm late, boss.
Sorry. Sorry, it just logged me out of my email and then put me back into CB12. One moment, please.
The user looks like a bridge. I see the. I also love.
This is the first one.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, first one.
David, do you have it in your email as well, David?
Now I've got it. Sorry, it just knocked me out. I'm back in.
Probably easier if you share. Let me see if you can do it.
Yeah. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
So just if you can introduce yourself and then.
My name is Christine Gainey. I'm the Chief Communications Officer for Amber Charter Schools Network. And this is Rose, who is the Managing Director of Operations for the network. And Rose and I have both been here for several years, almost on 20 years at Amber. So let me just give you a history and mission for Amber. Amber Charter Schools was founded in 2000 as the first Latino-led charter school in New York State by Community Association of Progressive Dominicans, a community-based organization. Our first school opened in East Harlem and serves currently over 300 students in grades K to 5. It has been open over 20 years, and then our mission is below that. We provide our students with an academically rigorous and well-rounded education, along with strong character development that will enable them to prosper in future endeavors. So our East Harlem location is a K through 5. Our Kingsbridge opened in 2017 in the Bronx for K through 4. And then our Inwood campus opened with we opened with K and 1 and 5 and 6, and now we're at K through 3 and 5 through 8 at that campus. So there's an elementary school and a middle school at Inwood.
Sorry, one sec.
You can hit next.
Elementary and middle. And that's all.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
All right, so this is our Inwood location, 532 West 215th Street. We currently have the elementary school there and the kinder, so right now it's K-3, and then we have middle school 5-8. Next year, we will be adding 4th grade, so it will be a K-8 school next year. And then the campus enrollment, the current enrollment right now is 413 students. There's 141 in K-3, and then in our middle school, there's 272 students. Our expected enrollment next year is 490 students, so Inwood will have 175 K-4 together, and middle school 315, so it's about 77 more students, about 30 to 40 in kindergarten, and then we'll enroll students in 5-8, about 30 to 40 as well. It's based on a lottery, it's based on applications and how many we received. We did expect a higher enrollment that was projected when we first started in Inwood, but due to COVID and other things, that's not where enrollment is right now. So the next slide. So right now our peak hours, elementary school, the arrival time is 7:30 to 8:10. The dismissal time is 2:50 to 3:30. That's our window. And then the after school dismissal is 5:30 to 6 p.m. We also have a staggered dismissal. So we started with our kinder students start kinder through 3rd, start at 2:50 to 3:10. And then we do our middle school from 3:20 to 3:30. 60% of our families are coming by private cars and 40% by public transportation and walkers. And then our after school program, 23%, they're either public transportation or walkers, but 23% of our enrollment is in the after school program. We'll go to the next. So what are we doing now? Right now, Amber staff is outside helping direct traffic. They wear yellow vests and have walkies to communicate any issues that are occurring. We continue to send families digital and backpack notices, reminding families to please not to double park, refrain from honking horns, follow the traffic signs. We provide Metro cards for our students. We encourage families to take public transportation as well. And we really encourage our families to use Broadway or Seaman Avenue for arrival and dismissal. We also place no parking signs and orange cones that block the bus zone for dismissal as well. So what are we planning for next year? So we are planning to re-examine the middle school and arrival and dismissal times in the schedules to create a larger gap between the elementary and middle school schedules, creating and implementing a pickup zone on Seaman Avenue and Broadway, increasing our after-school sports and enrichment programs as well, so there will be more students in after-school sports. And then also increasing the capacity of our current after-school program. Currently, it does not have the capacity that we would like it to have for the amount of students that are leaving at regular dismissal. And then also collaboration with School in the Square. Also, we would plan on piloting the pickup zone in the spring, communicating this to families and guiding them to seek for support to go to Seaman Avenue and also for Broadway, and see how that does work, if we can implement that well for next year. Next slide. In additional efforts, a letter to the Assemblyman requesting crossing guards and traffic agents during arrival and dismissal. We continue to request crossing guard support from local precincts. We know there's a shortage of crossing guards. We've asked every single year. Also, I reached out to the city engineer planner. You did have someone on the meeting last month, so I did reach out to them and they got me in contact with someone else. And then also collaboration with Westville and delivery of materials and construction next door.
All right. Cynthia, can you just give us the 1 minute on, or let's see, the 1 minute on like, what does collaboration with School in the Square mean for next year? What?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, so my name is Cynthia Cajon. I'm the Chief Programs and Engagement Officer for School in the Square. I'm joined here with my colleagues, Jimenez Sanders, who's our principal, and Maria, who is our Early Childhood Center Director. So we are planning on opening a pre-K next year, next door to Amber. So the exact address is 275 Park Terrace. Thank you. I think we are here also to kind of learn what is working, where are the challenges, and how we can really support that as we communicate to our families as well. We are still finalizing our own opening date, as it's still very much dependent on access to the building. So I think for us, we are looking at collaborating with both Amber and the community to see how we can also support what's currently happening and how we can also address some of those challenges.
Cynthia, could you please repeat the address?
275 Park Terrace.
Yeah, thanks.
East.
What's the name again?
So School in the Square, they were just talking about their presence next year
Okay,
there with
thank
the
you. Got it.
pre-K, right? And then, so,
This would be for next year, and
For-
we're happy to kind of share what that would look like, but again, I think for this particular moment, we're here to support with when it is happening.
right, okay. So let me just go through a few, I guess, ground rules or just also just process. We have a lot of people on the attendee list. I thank everybody for being here. I know that this has been something that, you know, we've been talking about in different forms, but haven't kind of all sat down together now. So in this moment, the committee members will have an opportunity to ask anything that we might want to ask about what's here. And then we will move to attendee questions. I do want to move the agenda tonight, so I will actually try to, just depending how many people from the attendee group want to speak, I just ask that if your issue is covered, maybe don't go over it again or keep it brief. Thank you, Ebenezer. And I'll give it, I don't know, another, once we get to the attendees, maybe give it like 20 minutes and then we'll probably move on from there because we do have a few items to get through tonight. So I guess I would just kick it off with a question. If you could just like a little more detail on when you say like the pickup zones on Seaman and Broadway, which I know that's like a suggestion that's come out, which, you know, seems like would offer some pressure off the system. So that means like you would have, how would that work? Like you'd have personnel that would go over to those locations, right, to try to,
The plan would be to start with a certain grade of students and guide their parents and train their parents and have staff move to Seaman Avenue and dismiss at that spot. Where we have to go look and see the best location for traffic flow.
How far is that between the two?
It's about 2 blocks, yeah. Over 100 feet. I think it's like 1,700 feet.
okay. So anybody on?
I have a comment.
Yeah,
You say you're gonna use the Coast Guard, right? Or where are you gonna get those Coast Guard,
The crossing guard,
crossing guard?
we have reached out to the city asking for crossing guards. There's a shortage right now and we continue to ask for them. Another idea that we've spoken about is seeing if we can get parent volunteers to help with the crossing.
What I'm saying is because, you gotta make sure that you get a good people.
Absolutely.
Because, I walk so many times
Mhm.
in the morning, go to my work, to work. And I see the crossing guard from distance from the other side saying the kids, come.
Right.
Instead of going and stand on the middle of the street. That's the way you're supposed to do it. Because it's a lot, I see a lot of people also talking with friends that bring kids. You're not supposed to talk to nobody. You're not to associate. You say good morning, of course, but not you know, stay here talking with her. And then the kids running, because, last year, the fire department have an emergency, and the kids were crossing the street, they was about to kill him. So you gotta, you gotta make sure.
Yes.
They're very
Yes,
important.
thank you for doing that.
As I believe, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name,
Christine,
Christine, as you were speaking about your, crossing guards, you're in your own crossing guards with yellow vests. A message from someone in the neighborhood appeared on the screen saying, you live there and you've never seen them, so maybe you would like to address.
I have seen them. I actually ordered the vest. I've seen them in action, so I don't know. I will check with my ops team, but I would like to know what days they're not seeing personnel wearing the vest outside.
And let me just have a follow-up question, if you don't mind. So, and then, again, I don't know the technicalities of the crossing guard program, but it's conceivable that your personnel could be trained or something so that they could be official crossing guards in some sense, because right now, they probably have no right to direct traffic, even though they do so with their pretty vests. So you might want to consider that, because anything that will maximize control for you.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Like that.
All right, and just to reiterate one more time, so you have requested each year crossing guard, and you have yet to get a crossing guard in your years of operation, yeah. This is like a big problem. I mean, everybody's experiencing it, but it's a problem. I also want to remind, people that as a public meeting, the chat is not part of it. If it's in the chat, it's kind of not, you can chat amongst yourselves, I guess, but it's not, part of the meeting.
If I might, I happen to be the parliamentarian of the board. We want you not to chat among yourselves. The chat is to ask questions. In fact, we have the Q&A for questions. So ideally, chat should not be used. This is the meeting and we don't want a second meeting. It does not help anything. So please do not have a separate meeting on the chat. And if necessary, we will turn it off.
And just actually one question that came up, for School in the Square, what is your, sort of hope for the enrollment on the pre-K? Like, is it one class or two classes?
So we are at the moment, looking at about 4 classes, so about of 18. So roughly about 70 students.
And you would build to that, or that would be, like, hoping to start, like, open with that? Bruce?
How is School in the Square different from Amber? Excuse my ignorance.
Sure, I can start and then,
It's
so
another
we're both-
school.
So we're both public charter schools.
Right.
And so each charter school has its own different, unique charter with the New York State, Department of Education, or their authorizing charter. And so our school, we are a dual language, pre-K program, and dual language program for our elementary school. So we've been in existence for about 8 years and about 5 years, going on 5 years at the Cooper location. We opened with a kindergarten class during the pandemic and kind of have been growing to now we are a pre-K to 3rd grade school.
Thank you.
I have a question, please. I'm having trouble actually picturing the geography here. Is this the school that used to be the religious school on Park
Yeah.
Terrace East, that old big red building there?
Amber.
So that's Park Terrace East and 215th. So you have, I live around there. You have Seaman Avenue, then you have Cooper Street, then you have Park Terrace East, Park Terrace West, and then Broadway. So there's several blocks between Broadway and Seaman Avenue. So there's a chance that you might be walking children several blocks, not just one block. And if it's Broadway that they're being dismissed at or arriving at, then they're gonna have to come up the stairs on 215th Street? Okay, interesting.
Is that hard for kids?
So,
Hard for their parents.
um. Okay. I'm gonna actually start, I had some hands online, and then, so you have 2 minutes. For your question, and leave a little time for response if you're looking for one. I'm gonna start with Julia Cox.
Hi, this is Julia.
Hi, Julia.
So I'm just, I think what I really want to communicate is that the current situation really is a hardship for the residents in the area. The amount of honking, with the staggered dismissal can mean that it's sort of nonstop honking for an hour in the afternoon. And there are challenges in the morning as well. And it doesn't feel like there's a strong school presence trying to address it. And I guess I wonder if the middle school students who are bigger and stronger could be, as the weather is nicer now, if we could pilot it this spring where they go down to Broadway and Seaman for pickup. Because if the students are escorted by the school to those locations, then the cars will go wherever the students are. And if we see how that goes for several weeks, there might really be an opportunity for parents to feel that it's easier and that their children should develop their cardiovascular strength for tackling the stairs and the hill, as all the residents do. That's it.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for being succinct in your question. I do want to say it's been a while since we've had this many attendees, and I just appreciate that people are taking the time to be here. It's just nice to see you all. I see a lot of familiar names as well. Christine, do you have anything
I just want to answer to Julia. I said that in the presentation that we do want to pilot in the spring with the older students, Broadway and Seaman Avenue, and see how that goes. And we're trying to look at different options each year to see what is working, and we want to have a peaceful community. So yes, that is what we are going to try.
Allegra? Let me get you. There you go.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
We can.
All right, super. So I have a few comments. The first is that, as being a one-way street with kind of limited ingress and egress, there's a finite solvable number of cars that can be on our streets per hour. It's not like rocket science. It's actually very basic science. And if you can accomplish drop-offs like, 10 seconds, then that number is somewhere around 200. I noticed in their presentation, one of the omissions on how they might reduce traffic would be to increase enrollment of students who are indeed walkable distance to their school. Having 40% of your kids walking or carring while 60% is delivered by car is not representative of 134 zip code. When in fact, I think the statistics, I don't have ACS for 2022 in front of me, but 2/3 of the people in this zip code do not have access to a car, and 80% of the people in this zip code actually get to work and school not by car. So if they have that high of their enrollment who is there by car, they're not serving their purpose in providing a charter school that caters to people who actually live in this neighborhood. I also note that of the several families that I know who have attended there, they've been scared off for a couple of reasons, which is counterproductive to us solving the traffic problem and them increasing their enrollment. And that's because they're bullying. School has a reputation now for bullying, and that has gotten out amongst local parents, so they don't want to go there. And the second piece is that, like a lot of charters, they have a reputation for not supporting children with special needs, kind of bullying parents by persistently calling special needs parents. So anyway, those are my comments. And I think you're at max capacity for the number of cars. I don't want them in my crosswalks either. If I can't cross the street, I think all those parents need to be towed who park at the crosswalk. Thanks.
We're at 2 minutes. Sec. Sorry, I'm just gonna take that off for now, so I can see our. Mary Porter. Oh, just give me 1 sec. Okay, you should be good now. Just unmute.
Okay, yes, can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, thank you very much. I live in the middle of the block of Park Terrace Gardens on Park Terrace East. I am a resident who actually commutes to work in Westchester. I have had mostly difficulty in the afternoon, actually. The morning drop-off is very noisy. You can hear it. You can sort of set your clock by it. And it certainly goes for longer than the parameters that are being described by the school. The afternoon is actually extremely difficult. I used to be able to come home at 4 o'clock and there would be spaces from the teachers having left the school when it was the previous school. One thing about the previous school was that they were all older children and almost all of them seemed to travel on public transport. One of the biggest difficulties is the way in which the cars are hanging around waiting for their children, particularly later in the afternoon, 4:30, 5 o'clock. It seems to go on indefinitely. And I see often parents waiting, double parked, for their child to come out, and they wait a long time. So there doesn't seem to be any kind of coordination between whose child is ready to come out and what car is in front of them. I believe they said they have walkie-talkies. I've never seen them. I've never seen a staff member in a yellow jacket. And they have a situation where they put these cones along the outside of parked cars and say no double parking. I have had the situation more than once where people have double parked on both sides of the road and I cannot get through at all. I think it's incredibly dangerous if we ever had an emergency and an ambulance needed to get through. And I have nothing against the school whatsoever, but I don't think that the staff are doing what they say they are doing. There is no control at all of the parents and their cars. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mary. And I guess as you answer, if you can give us an idea of on the double parking, if you've had any, like, what have your requests or what is your interaction with NYPD?
Sure.
Yeah.
Usually there's been a disagreement between a neighbor and a parent. That's usually when I call or email the traffic agents to stop by afterwards and then keep the peace for like the next couple of days. They've been there a couple of times, but not regularly or consistently. Does that answer?
Yeah.
It's a comment, just to say, help a little bit. It's impossible to implement for people to not do double parking. It's impossible, even in school, because even cops, they park double parking. I mean, I know that because I passed by to Fort Charter School. And then the street, they have one parking space here, people parking over here, double parking here, and it's impossible for you guys. It's gonna be devastated to implement that for people not to wait for the kids. And I will wait for my kid no matter what, even double parking or, and that's the case for me. And I don't know about you guys, but that's my own opinion. Is the way it is right now, it's impossible.
Jim Berlin?
I heard a comment, in fact, I think two of our, participants both commented that, at certain hours, there was a huge amount of car horn honking. Now, among other things, it's illegal. You are not required to enforce the law, or enforce education laws. But that's just simply unacceptable. And, you know, I think if necessary, we need to, or have Ebenezer contact the precinct because, you know, people cannot be blowing their horns and disturbing the neighborhood. And there's no excuse for that. So, and the other piece of it, you know, just to around, is you would know these people and you could speak to these people. So although you have no enforcement powers, you could, and again, this is a, I think, a program that we have to work on to, and you would be involved in, you know, enforcement if necessary. But I think, you know, this is well, you are part of this neighborhood, and therefore we expect you to help us maintain the, and obviously the hunting doesn't help you. So this, I think, is an issue, and it needs to be addressed.
Yes, I agree with you with the honking. I will say we remind our families all the time if there's honking, there's also been cases where it's not just comes from our school. There's other that, yes, there's traffic coming and then there's other neighbors or there's delivery trucks that add to the honking. So it's not just coming from one source, it's a variety of sources, but it's caused by one problem.
We do send periodic communication to families often to remind them of the rules outside, to remind them that we don't want them double parking, to remind them that we don't want them honking. We try to have conversations with the ones that we directly see it also, aside from the blanket statement to everybody. We are trying to get them to listen. We understand that we're part of this community. We want to be part of this community. We want everyone to be happy and in peace. And so, you know, we're doing what we can to enforce it and to tell our families to also, you know, try to be a part of the community and to.
We are very happy to hear them. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of things. I'm gonna go Fred, then Connie, Tara, and then wrap it up with David. And, oh, there you are, Dave Tom. Okay. And yes, and appropriately, we're gonna finish with Dave Tom, who I was just gonna say, Dave is leading Inwood Owners, has just provided periodic updates, and I appreciate that. Obviously, we don't, you know, we have a pretty good distribution in some ways on the committee and what we see, but it's not perfect, and it's always helpful to have engaged residents. I'm sorry, this engagement is about something that's been, as our first attendee said, a hardship for people. Okay, Fred?
Right, that seems like a lot of parents driving, but a lot of it is if the student population is overwhelmingly Dominican, a lot of them do drive and they obviously drive professionally, so I can see the drop off thing. But this is just to throw this out, looking at the map, there is this kind of turning circle, 1 block south, that's the extension of Park Terrace East.
Sorry.
Okay, so, all right, let's just keep, we don't, like, do you have a question for them or like?
This is a suggestion.
Yeah,
The issue now is that they're dropping off in front of the school, which is a live street and causing massive congestion, especially in the afternoon when parents have to wait. So this is a street, doesn't get used very much. It has space where you can lay up on, especially in the afternoon. So now the pickup is happening not on a live street in front of the school. Kids can easily walk here, not taking life and limb like going to Broadway or Seaman. So it's a potential solution to some of the problems. And that's.
wait, and what you are describing where? I'm sorry.
That was
Just,
circled by-
I need it on the record, sorry.
I think I can,
It is
is
the
that-
extension of Park Terrace East, and it's 1 block south of 215th Street, and it is officially known as Bruce Reynolds Way, and it's a two-way street that has a turning circle at the base of it that has no parking on it and no cars generally staging.
Yeah, all right, well, why don't we just let them do it, because I don't think they have, we have access to that, but like.
It's the corner or the roundabout at Isham Park, and there's usually cars parked there, and it's a pretty tight.
More.
It's tighter than
Okay.
in front of our school, but I appreciate the suggestion.
Okay, Connie? Sorry, I need to do something? Okay, you're good. But just, okay, there you go.
Yeah, okay, great. So thank you. I appreciate everyone being here and I appreciate all the comments. I have to say, I live directly across the street from the school. And I know that Christine and the school has been making efforts, but I am shocked at the claim in the PowerPoint that staff directs traffic. That is just false. It's flat out false. And I see it every day. In fact, when cars can't get around school buses, I've personally gone out to try and help a car get around a bus by guiding them and telling them they have a few inches to spare. So I can tell you that's just not the way it is. And with respect to using the Isham Park circle, I would urge you not to do that. It is people in the community are there, children from the community are playing there, people from the community are walking dogs there. If we have this situation on 215th, it's only going to get worse in the circle. And I'm very concerned about the way folks are driving. I have photos, which I believe I have sent, that there are parents sort of going halfway up 215th Street and dropping off and then backing up down Park Terrace West to continue on their way. And I've nearly gotten hit a number of times. Now, there have been stop signs that were put in. Thank you. That's terrific. Unfortunately, despite stop sign ahead being printed on the roadway and the stop signs on either side of the street, both on Park Terrace East and Park Terrace West, cars routinely blow those stop signs. I think perhaps flashing lights might help draw attention to those. But when I have told parents there's a stop sign, I routinely get cussed at. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Thanks, Connie. All right. We'll talk about the NYPD maybe when we wrap up the questions. All right. Tara Kapoor.
Hi. Thank you. I just want to, I live directly in the neighborhood as well, and I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to try to figure this out. Connie just mentioned something about cars coming up backwards up 215. I too have seen that, so it's not just a one-off, unfortunately. But I do want to say, when the school first opened, the area in front of the school, the parking, was supposed to be no cars there at all between the hours of the school hours. So 8 and 4 or 7 and 4, whatever it was. There are now staff cars parked there, and they're parked there all day. So for example, today, the school was getting a delivery. I think it was paper, but it was in the middle of the day. It wasn't during drop off. It wasn't during pickup. And this big truck came for delivery, and it stopped right in the middle of the street. And the guy got out, he made his delivery. Eventually he kind of moved over because one of the cars gave him space, but he was blocking traffic for I don't know how long. And he said, I can't do anything about it. I have this delivery to make. So because all of those cars are on that street, parked there, there's nowhere for larger vehicles to go. Like they just, it's just not possible. So this truck needed to stop for however long it needed to stop, bring the delivery into the school, come back, and it was honking, and it was a mess in the middle of the day. So imagine that's an ambulance, a fire truck, something like that. We have a problem on our hands. so that's something that I saw today. And it's not the first time. Again, I live right across the street as well. And I also do have to say that I've tried to be nice to the parents and said, please, be patient, whatever. And there's a lot of cursing and a lot of rudeness. So I think we need to figure something out. I want to work with you guys, but it's becoming more and more difficult.
Okay, thanks, Tara. Yeah, so there's a no standing zone.
Correct.
And there are sometimes teacher cars in the no standing zone?
There's always cars in the non-student, not always.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you don't have the visual. I'm actually looking at Christine. So, that's a problem. Yeah, I know. Christine's nodding. It is such an unworkable spot, the 215th Street. It is so unworkable. At 60% is a lot of cars coming in. The only thing you've got is however many yards of no standing zone. It's just, again, some of this experience comes from what we saw with Success Academy. At very least, they keep the no standing zone is their way to have, you need that lane. There's not enough street width. I leave you with that. There's not, I get it. We all don't have, but a lot of us who are street parkers, it's grim out there. You can't use your no standing zone. You just can't.
So there is a no standing in front of the school.
Yeah, because then we get what was just described.
Well,
There's been a bunch of comments that not only do teachers park in a no standing zone where they should be getting tickets, but apparently, according to the messages, the school has given the teachers informal permits to use that space. Now, keep in mind, that if this committee leans in any direction, we're probably going to lean more towards the people who live here. And as was mentioned earlier, when this traffic craziness is going on, it would, according to some of the speakers, it would be impossible for an emergency vehicle to get by. And no standing zones simply means no standing. You cannot park your car there. And in fact, that's a perfect example of where enforcement should be occurring. And there are probably very real reasons for the no standing zone, possibly in terms of the safety of the school, because hypothetically, and of course you have fire drills. Like recently I saw a fire drill at another school, and then they were very well paid, but another charter school. But the point is that, again, if a fire engine can't get there, if a fire engine cannot pull up in front of the school, I don't want to speculate on what might occur. And again, you would presumably have gotten all the kids out, but you see my
All right,
point.
Jim, come on, move it along.
Well, so my bottom line basically is there should be no parking in a no standing zone. And at the very least, we should demand the police enforce that.
All right, we have a bit of a list for the police, but we'll get to that at the end. All right, so we have David Garrigan, then David Tom, and then that I'm gonna close it out there. David Garrigan, you are up.
Sure. So I think, again, I live across the street. I think it's a lot of good points being made. I think you just sweep that area, like it's being discussed, like Jim just discussed, sweep the area in front of the school of parking, have some folks out there with jackets on and flags, and just keep waving the parents along. Keep the process moving, and you should have less of a problem. The problems are generally, as someone said, parking, double parking, and when you put up those cones to close that lane, it immediately takes away a lane on the street. So you wave the cones out of the way, you put some folks there, flags and coats, they wave people along. I think it'd be a much better solution, and see how that goes. Agreed today, very few people are moving traffic, which I guess is a challenge. I mean, I'm only here a few days a week, working from home, but that's what I see. I think you clean up that area in front, you keep the traffic moving. I think people will be a lot happier. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Dave Tom, long time no see. There you go.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for the discussion tonight, much appreciated. Two additional points I just wanted to bring up that haven't been mentioned. One is just for the committee's understanding, trying to envision the order of magnitude of what we're talking about here. The current enrollment that Amber showed you tonight was a little over 400. Their charter authorizes over 900. And School in the Square told us last year in direct conversation, their ultimate enrollment would be 144. So if that all comes to pass in future years, that's over 1,000 children at this one location. So the problems we're seeing today will more than double in the future. And that's why it's so important to focus on solutions. Second, we haven't talked tonight about the other elephant in the room, which is Zeta, which is now open at 218th and 9th Avenue and has 1,100 students of their own. So to Zeta's credit, they also have enormous amounts of traffic, car traffic and pedestrian traffic. They've tried to manage their traffic, but in doing so, they now simply blockade eastbound West 218th Street at Broadway. There's police barriers that they drag across the street and usually leave them there 24/7 unless someone like me goes and drags them out of the way when they come home off the subway at night. So you just have this kind of, look, that part of Broadway, that part of Inwood is always challenged in terms of a bit of a Wild West attitude in terms of curb allocation and street use, and buses all over the place, garbage trucks all over the place, used cars all over the place, car wash vans all over the place, every other kind of activity you can think of. But now adding to that, you have like steel barriers just sitting in the street at all hours. And so clearly between Amber and Zeta, there's, it merits attention. It just merits attention. These non-solutions and ad hoc solutions are not engineered. They're not designed for the long-term success of the neighborhood. And we're just asking that the community board lend its voice to nudge the appropriate city agencies who have all, kind of washed their hands of the problem, that the problem is there, it's going to get worse. And we really need some attention as to how to manage the traffic flows in a way that does not diminish the quality of living in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. And I do appreciate Dave, has been keeping close to it on all our behalf since it was like first announced. There's Dave, I did want to ask you, in the beginning of the school year with Zeta and 218th Street, you described a situation that, because of all this westbound traffic from the east side of Broadway now coming across, it's limiting the amount of left turns from eastbound 218th onto turning north on Broadway. Anyway, has that eased at all? Is it still very intense with the backup? Because it was going, I think, back towards Seaman or maybe Indian Road or whatever. Is that about the same? And I will say that I was hoping that Zeta could be here. The date didn't work, but my contact did provide like the hours that they're like allowed to have those barriers up and when they're ostensibly being taken down, and hopefully we'll have him back when the schedule is, we'll try to find another date. But I was just curious what was happening with the backup.
So in my non-metric opinion, it's worse than ever because of the combination of Amber traffic and Zeta traffic. And, I think there is something merited here for DOT to look at this intersection, look at maybe, which has always been a problem with its odd phasing. There are options, right? You could close 10th Avenue northbound at 218th, divert that traffic onto 215th, take the 10 seconds you give to that northbound traffic, create a left turn phase. There are options DOT could look at, but they have to be pressed to look at the intersection under the current traffic loads. The one silver lining I will give you, and we'll see, a lot of that traffic is toll dodging from the Bronx. And now the Bronx gets a free pass over the Henry Hudson Bridge, courtesy of that odd apartment.
Yeah.
So that may actually reduce some of the toll dodging traffic that's been cutting through the neighborhood, which would, help the situation, but we don't know yet. Those are mysterious numbers.
Okay, and then maybe we kick this to another time, but Lyle, I do want to say that when this first came up, you were kind of like, well, it's more of an NYPD thing, but if we do need a left hand turn signal or something on 218th, on the west side of Broadway, it will become a DOT thing. So I guess I would say, we hope to have, again, Zeta here in the future, and maybe we can come back to that, but that part's not just an NYPD issue. So I guess I would wrap this up by saying that there are a few items that I think, I think there, in some ways, when the school calls NYPD, it works better than like people calling 311 or what have you. You have they do try to respond, to that kind of thing. However, I think, but then they're responding to like a point in time, whereas the sort of general bad behavior, somebody going reverse up 215th, blowing stop signs, which, we're just seeing this kind of aggressive, dangerous driving pattern, which has just increased since the pandemic. We're seeing it in a lot of places. It's completely not a situation that's kids and everything that everybody has described tonight. None of us, it's just scary to even hear about. Anyway, so then that means they need to show up sometimes and ticket a bunch of people. That's the only way to be dissuaded. So we will try to get this on district managers' kind of plate, because it's a sort of most consistent way that we can sort of get in front of NYPD at the district service cabinet meeting. And I guess we, again, like anybody that comes up with inspiration on some idea that the school hasn't put on the list of things they're thinking about, or whatever, or we missed here tonight, send it along to the school, to CB12, to Inwood Owner, just get it through. And then we'll be interested, if there's any way to keep us posted on how a pilot might go, etc. We do appreciate you being here tonight and being part of the conversation. It's not always the case. And again, thank you to all of you who attended tonight and being part of it. It does my heart good to see people, because we've had some where we don't have many guests, and I really like to see y'all. All right. So with that, we are gonna move to our next item. Again, thanks, Amber, and thank you for 3 people coming from School on the Square, and then hopefully, whatever, maybe you'll come back next year, or I don't know, or maybe you'll just go to Youth and Education, but keep us posted.
Yes, and if there's anything we could also do to advocate for the crossing guard, like as an additional school that's there. And I did just want to say to David Kahn's point, yes, we are looking then for that pre-K group to kind of grow into the kindergarten at a future date. So we weren't trying to hide anything. It was just for next year, it would just be the pre-K. So it would be going to the 144 potentially.
Do you have any projections on your split of car versus foot
So
arrival?
right now, I would say the majority of our families are walkers. And so that's why we are looking at, that's
Right.
kind of.
So you're saying based on at Cooper?
Sir Cooper, and also for the middle school on 179, we do see that, or some of our families are coming by bus, but pre-K does not take bus. So those would be mostly walkers, right? I would say the majority are walkers, more than half are current walkers.
All right. It's hard to imagine one more car. That's what I have to say. All right, thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Um, Thank you. All right, do we have anybody from Yeshiva? Raise your hand if you're here on that. If not, then I actually will bump it till after we talk Fort Washington Avenue. Let me just do one more.
They indicate they were coming.
Let me just look at the email again, because, but I mean, I have all the plans and all of that, and it's it's pretty similar to the one we did on our own the last time, but hold on.
She looked a little bit like a leg rat.
Okay. All right, I don't think she's coming, so in that case. I'm just gonna jump. Okay. All right. So of our hotspots in the district that give us heartburn over many years, and certainly predating my time on the committee, is Fort Washington between 168 and 165th. And for a variety of reasons, an important bus route, the M4 goes through there. It's obviously a massive medical center and hospital together. It is a busy neighborhood regardless. It's a lot of people, it's a lot of cars, it's a lot of people under stress. And we're also obviously in the path to the world's busiest bridge. So during, I guess towards like late pandemic, sorry, what is that?
Sorry.
And sorry, I'm also wondering how Mr. Tillman is on the Zoom and sitting here, but so during there was, I don't know if it was late pandemic, we were kind of kicking around this, and Lyle, I'm gonna kind of include you, and at the time, you know, when struggling with backups along that way, hung up M4 buses, making a whole community late for where they need to be or getting home. And at that time was when DOT was adding the light sort of, I guess it's sort of at the entrance to the driveway to Milstein, if I'm saying that right. And so we decided to like let that settle a little before we came back to it. And then and then we didn't come back to it. And so it's on the agenda tonight. And we also have a few people who've kind of contacted us about ideas. I mean, everybody's cracking their head on this one. I think for tonight, but I just want to sort of say philosophically that you know, the community board and the committees were here to sort of create that link between the community and the agencies. And it doesn't, we want to communicate our objective. We are not here to come up with the solutions. We are not the traffic engineers. Like, obviously we have an idea that we think somebody has talked about. But these are things that people have been working on for a long time. It is not our role to engineer a solution or dictate a solution. It is our role to highlight problems and make sure that people are working on them. And if we have anything that we think maybe has been a stone unturned, like to certainly try to surface that. So with that comment, I want to say, like, there's so much history around 165th and Riverside. And that's not what we're talking about tonight. So this is really about 168th to 165th. I know you want to disagree with me, but there's a reason.
No, I don't want to disagree with you. I just want to give you recent history that I was actually delayed about. In fact, I sent you a picture. The southbound bus, in fact, it was actually gridlocked because the southbound bus was blocked by a turning car going east on 165th Street, so it couldn't proceed and nothing else could proceed. And everyone just sat there for well over 5 minutes. And the other little piece of history, of course, is we said to DOT and said to the hospital numerous times that there has to be some, human traffic control there because it's just ridiculous. And what finally happened is after the bus driver screamed through his windshield for 5 minutes at this car that was blocking him, the driver backed out of the intersection and finally things started moving. But, and the thing that makes it even worse, of course, is not just the people on the bus who are delayed and the people in all the cars, but this could impede the access of emergency vehicles to the hospital, and it could actually adversely impact, emergency patients. So this is an unacceptable situation, and it's been going on entirely too long, and obviously we welcome as many eyes on the situation and as many ideas as we can get. See, I agreed with you.
All right.
Yeah.
But Debbie, can you just repeat where that light was that was being?
So am I describing the light
Yes.
correctly? It's sort of, it's between 168th and 165th.
Yes, more or less.
Yeah, like that flyover. So it is south of 168th, but probably close. So when you have that circular or like,
Yeah.
it's at the north end of that.
Okay.
So, and thanks Julio Batista for being here representing the hospital. I know you can't speak for like initiatives that CUIMC worked on with trying to address reducing some of the loading zone and spreading it out over shifts and locations throughout the medical center. But obviously, I mean, this is a funky place because it is, it is in this other way passing through CUIMC and the hospital. And so it's not necessarily somewhere that, well, one, there's no such thing as a permanent traffic cop, but also they're not going to put it there because it sort of also just issues accessing the driveway, so if somebody's coming north on Fort Washington, I mean, that's the one that I worry most about, coming north on Fort Washington, and needing to make a left into the driveway. But admittedly, I haven't been down there very often in these years that that additional light has been there. And so Julio, if you, I don't know, just any reactions or anything that you can say from the NYP side, and then we actually have 2 guests today at least, and there might be more, who've given a lot of thought to this and have some ideas. So I'm going to have them also doing it.
Well, thank you. And I agree with you. I mean, this whole issue with the congestion of Fort Washington really something that predates, I think, many of us. But I just want to give you a little update. I know that this past week, traffic was I think worse than ever, it seems to me. So I'm happy to say that started on Tuesday, the 27th, the hospital has hired 2 NYPD traffic enforcement agents to really will be deployed to 165th Street in Fort Wash. These 2 officers will be there Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Another issue that has come up is really when drivers go north on Fort Wash, going to make that left turn onto the driveway, it presents a challenge because, first of all, on the east side of the street, there's really no parking at all. However, there is always parking.
There's
So-
always people, right?
Right.
There's no left turn lane then, like it takes away the,
Right. So what happens is when cars go to back up into the driveway, then the other cars who want to continue north have no way to maneuver because they're being blocked as well. So one of the things that also we're doing is, the security department is in the fact developing a position that will be responsible really, through the security department to monitor the driveway into Milstein so that it will help keep traffic within the driveway flowing so they don't back up on Fort Wash. So there's another little caveat here that I'm not sure on the committee may not know, is that the hospital is going to be undertaking a major construction project on Fort Washington and 165th Street, and that is we will be really demolishing what we call the Eye Institute, which is the corner building, and we will then construct there what we call a Cancer Plus building. The hospital facilities team will come to the general meeting later this month to give a little presentation on what that looks like and what that will be and when that will take place. But as that construction sort of starts, we would then also have our construction manager, really work with with our consultants and if we need more agents, we will get more agents. But our traffic manager, again, will supplement whatever traffic agents are there. They will supplement additional support as we get closer to that construction project and during the construction project. Just want to say one thing about the light. I know that light, which it should be around, equivalent to what 167th Street is. I know that it may present a problem because of the stop and go of the traffic. However, we must also bear in mind that a lot of folks that use it is not just our staff and to cross the street, but it is a hospital. So we have a lot of frail individuals who will go from the Milstein to what we call the Harkness, and vice versa. So, for someone who's frail, it's not, not fair for them to walk up a block to go across and come back down another block. So it presents a hardship for someone who's frail, someone who's a senior, who's recovering, to take those additional steps. So I think that light that was there does serve a purpose, and we should think hard in terms of thinking about it before we say we no longer need that. So, so those are some of the measures I just mentioned. We will continue to monitor it as we start this construction phase, and I don't know when it is. It'll be supplemented by additional support. But it's always been a very challenging, avenue to keep the traffic flowing.
yeah, I mean, I could say this about the prior people or the prior topic. I mean, I do feel like we want to make things we want to relieve the pain as much as we can at every opportunity on our streets.
Sure.
But our streets are streets and our institutions are our institutions. And sometimes there's a limit to how good it's going to get. So sometimes we're optimizing in something that's never going to be perfect, but it's still worth trying that. I thank you for anticipating some of my questions. I'm gonna make one, and you're the last person I want to be snarky with, but like the one little, I just have to get it off my chest. Like, really? It's a new thing that you have security assigned to the driveway? Like, what's been happening for all these years until then, really?
Yeah, no, I concur with that. The hospital itself does not, we have a contract with SP, which is the company that does the parking. And we've had numerous conversations about showing that they have enough staff to ensure that the cars are removed and, taken out and parked on a regular basis. I think that we're looking at now is really having our security department also play a major role in ensuring that the traffic does flow more easily.
No, I think, and I also think it's appropriate, and I'm thrilled to hear it, that the institution is supporting having some NYPD there. It's like, because it's unfortunately, like, there's no amount of street design that's going to make this okay. Like, it is having bodies there to just see it when it's happening, when something happens, and get it cleared before you back up for 5 blocks.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing I was going to say is that will be helpful, and something, we've always talked about this and struggled, and how do we sort of manage this is really, the enforcement aspect of this. How do we sort of get NYPD to dedicate and to enforce really some of the street, parking regulations that are there? That's become a challenge, and I think, that's also a key point to making traffic flow a little bit better.
It is a challenge. It is a challenge. It is a challenge. Agreed. Bruce Robertson.
So on Tuesdays, on Fort Wash at 168, there's a green market. And it goes from June to November, and it's great because I go there and I get great tomatoes. But maybe you could want to move it over to Haven Avenue and get it off the street, because you have that whole plaza that goes from Fort Wash around the corner in Haven Avenue, and it's a wonderful park and everything, but move the trucks over there. There's only about 5 or 6 trucks, but they just really make it congested on Tuesdays.
I'll take a look at it, Bruce.
Yeah, I've always wondered why it didn't move on to the plaza. I mean,
that makes perfect sense, because you can pull the trucks in from Haven and they can park there because people hang out there anyway, so I'll be glad to give you some more input.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Haven and that's still, we still have to allow egress for patients who go into the Neurological Institute, and also we also need to leave space for emergency vehicles in case of emergency. So
you've got the cheese guy and the bakery guy is already into the plaza in front of the library. So think about it.
Okay. I am going to ask Mr. Tillman and then Fred. I'm gonna try to keep it to 2. You've got permission to go a little over. To summarize, Mr. Tillman's also shared with us, he's done a lot of thinking on this. I have to step away for 1 second, so if my note takers can just be on top of that. And then Fred, same thing. And then you guys have something, and I'm gonna be right
Give
back.
them a time limit so we know.
Robin, you're gonna be on time?
Yes.
So, give him a 2, well, he can go 2.5, he's gonna try to keep it brief. And then Fred, try to keep it to 2. And hopefully I'll be back before then.
Should I wait for you to come back?
No, you just go ahead.
Okay.
2.5?
Listening to these discussions is very interesting, and it's very good that finally the New York Presbyterian is devoting some manpower. But there's a difference between manpower and trained manpower. So let me go through what are the obvious solutions to much of what we've been talking about, and it just lacks willpower and follow-throughness.
What's your name,
So,
please?
My name is Ray or Raymond Tillman.
Oh, we got your email. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I have a few decades of traffic engineering, and I'm familiar with the traffic scene here.
Yeah, I got that.
There are 4 things that can greatly assist what we all know is a major problem. The first thing is there is an existing entrance to the family center on 165th between Riverside and Fort Washington. Are you all familiar with this?
Yeah.
It's not used. Why the hell isn't it used? It could relieve a lot of the traffic that now goes into the Herbert Irving Pavilion on 161st Street. It's just as easy to get to that building from the unused entrance on 165th Street. That would keep a lot of traffic completely off Fort Washington. That seems to be a step in the right direction. Why it hasn't been done since they built this wonderful entrance should be asked of somebody, because it is the willingness to think and implement that is the problem. The solutions really are there. Now, if you use that entrance to the building on 165th, right? That street is 80 feet wide from building line to building line. You can have a separate left turn lane from the traffic coming eastbound up from the drive. That means that nobody that going there has to use Fort Washington Avenue. So it would be a considerable relief to Fort Washington Avenue. And the fact that it's sitting there unused blows my mind. It would be great if Julio could find out an answer. Now, part of the answer could be, well, it'll take a staff of about another 5 or 10 people to keep that operational and to sign directions to the Irving Building. But the staff of New York Presbyterian is about 23,000 here and 40,000 overall. So they really could find a few more people to open that building, that access point. And again, it will take traffic directly off Fort Washington Avenue. The second sort of obvious answer, which Julio indicates that they're all starting to do something about, is the traffic signal at 165th and Fort Washington. There are more sophisticated signals with street sensors that can be used to control traffic. But I don't think New York City, as this gentleman pointed out, is the place to be innovative on new traffic signals. All you need is bodies there. But it is a big difference between trained bodies and untrained bodies. So saying, well, there are 2 policemen there, sounds great. But I know from decades of experience that most policemen are not trained as traffic control people. They will grab somebody who violates the law, but for anticipating traffic backups, either up 165th or up Fort Washington, that's not them. So you need trained traffic control agents. The emphasis again is on trained, not just a body, controlling the signal at 165th and Fort Washington. That will make a major, major difference. But again, it's not enough to say, here are the guys, they have to be trained. There are training procedures. The city DOT probably has them. But unless they are trained, it's a waste of time and counterproductive.
All right.
The next solution
Just wrap it up.
is the taxi line on Fort Washington. Fort Washington is basically a 4-lane street, and you shouldn't permit any other thing on it than moving traffic. Move the traffic line to 168, do what every airport does, and have dispatchers at the buildings able to communicate with the line. You can even put another body at the head of the line to receive, send one traffic guy, one traffic here or there. It's very efficient. It's used all over the world. Why it can't be used here is an interesting question for Julio to ask his buddies.
All
Now,
right,
Julio
well, I'm gonna have
mentioned,
to, well, I'm gonna have to have you drop up because you're at like 2.5 minutes.
you gotta be kidding, after I've been here since 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock.
I'll see my time to Mr. Tillman.
Yeah,
Okay,
please let him go.
okay.
He's got some good ideas.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Thank you. Now, Julio mentioned that a lot of times there are arguments on the traffic line because somebody wants a short distance and the traffic guys are there, the drivers are there for longer fees and longer hauls. So you find out beforehand which taxi drivers will accept short hauls. And when they get on the line, you get their license plate and you call when there is a
We
short
get the
haul
point
call.
about a taxi dispatch.
Pardon?
We get the point, we get your point about a taxi dispatch. Keep moving along because
Yeah, sure.
Debbie's trying to
Okay.
run a meeting.
The last thing is enforcement. Everyone's very proud. We got 2 policemen here. We got agents there. It's meaningless unless they're trained and they have absolutely correct directions, okay? Enforcement basically is 1 or 2 policemen on motor scooters going up and down that distance, the 600 or so feet from 165th to 168, and moving stopped vehicles and moving the trucks that are parked there. And they could also check that the construction, which is given when they get their construction permit, a certain portion of the street, that they don't sneak in a few extra feet. This Julio would go for the new construction at Harkness too. Don't give them more than they apply for and make sure that they don't overdo it. To a contractor, having street space is dollars in the bank. They have to be controlled. Now, all of this that I've discussed is peanuts. It can come out of one pocket of New York Presbyterian without their even noticing it. It's a few people at the access on 165th. It's a can of paint to put in a left turn. It's hiring 2 or 3 trained agents for the traffic light. And if necessary, paying the city of New York for 2 cops on motor scooters to patrol up and down and simply enforce the law. That they can do without training, additional training. So what's needed more than anything else is a willingness to do what's necessary to do these basic, straightforward things and get it done with without further endless talk for 5 or 10 more years.
I appreciate all of your comments and the one I think that, and you stressed it a great deal, and I'm sure our friend Julio Batista is listening as well. We are thrilled as a committee, and I am thrilled as an individual, having lived in this community for a long, long time, that you're actually gonna have this personnel, police officers at 165th Street and Fort Washington to move the traffic. But the key, as you just heard, is that without the proper training, they won't be particularly useful. And that has to be an integral part of what you do. And I'm sure you already figured that out, but I wanted to reinforce that.
Thank you. It is necessary. I
And-
have over the years encountered
All right, so-
many policemen who simply do not know how to direct traffic.
Okay. As we always point out in this kind of moment, traffic enforcement used to sit with DOT. It does not. It sits with the NYPD now. And
Sure.
we just get limited
Well,
traffic enforcement resources, but we couldn't agree more. Robin?
Well, I agree with what he says, for the new Presbyterian. to implement or hiring more people to manage the traffic with the proper training. That would be fantastic. Julio, take into consideration, that's a great idea, and you guys should do something about it. Because around 5 or 4 o'clock, 4 to 7 p.m., it's impossible to drive on the side, 168, 165, 167. So if you have more people to direct traffic, that would be awesome.
Mhm.
And that will manage more, easy move, which is good for all of us, for you guys and for the pedestrian, for people going back home, et cetera, et cetera.
Agree.
Jody?
Yeah, I just have 2 questions, Julio, for you. One is, I do think your idea about looking at the entrance at 165 and possibly bringing some cars down that way for valet purposes. Have you considered that, Julio, at all when you're looking at that? I did happen to do reconnaissance this weekend on this area, and I did talk to the NYP's valets, and they also recommended that spot as a possible
Yeah.
location that they feel also is underutilized. I just don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, no, I to my understanding it was an access point that was going to be utilized. I don't know why it's not utilized to the point, but I will bring this back in terms of folks that are going to the Heart Center. Could be the access point for all of them to be able to go there instead of going through Milstein and Fort Wash. So I will follow up with our facilities with this.
Particularly,
And it's something that they already got the question. So I'm just waiting for the answers.
the driveways at 161 and 165 are wildly different. The problem comes from the driveway, the small driveway at 161 that is really no place to park, and when someone sticks their nose out, it's right before the light. To simply force those guys, you could even close that entrance and force them to use the one on 165th, and you'd be doing yourself a big favor.
Right, that's what I mentioned, that folks who are going to the Heart Institute, which is that new building, and that's the entrance to it, that could possibly be an access point for those patients.
Yeah, okay, we actually don't do back and forth, that we don't do.
So I'll get back to you. I'll get back to the committee in terms of that request.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And my only last comment is I do agree with you that the width, and I don't know how this works, but I just think it should be looked at, is the width building to building or from the parking garage to Columbia is massive. I mean, the sidewalk on the garage side is almost 2 car lanes wide. And I'm just wondering whether, that should be looked at. It would be probably a big project, but if you're demoing you're doing a lot of construction already in that area, would it be worth having DOT take a look at that?
Yeah.
Because that's where your left lane can come in.
There should be.
Again, we don't,
Direction.
right, no, we don't do the back and forth.
So anyway,
There's a
that's my only
participant,
comment.
you
She's
gave your
right.
input.
Should be looked at. The answer is very simple to a traffic engineer.
Jim?
The other thing we should suggest to Ray is that he make the same presentation to our public safety committee, because they're the ones that actually interact with the police department.
Oh, 2 minutes.
Well, then it maybe
The
doesn't
way it
take more
works,
time, and
that-
in fact, I have to
Be
be
happy
happy
to.
outside.
All right, I mean, once that building starts coming down, I just fear like how technicolor this is gonna get, and it's already like indescribable, so. Julio, I thank you for being here. I think there are a couple, I guess, a series of follow-ups. Milstein, of course, keep us posted on how it's going with the additional traffic personnel and and a little bit more control at the driveway. I'll be really curious to hear from everybody about how that's impacting the situation. Jim?
One other thing, you just skipped my mind, but it'll be back, so I'll raise my hand.
I have a
Say one
question
thing?
for Julia.
Yes.
In 10 seconds. And it's to Julio. So the traffic police were there last week in the afternoon, and they parked their vehicle on the southbound lane of Fort Washington Avenue at 165th. So that probably didn't help because they're blocking an entire lane of traffic with their car. So just so you know, as a heads up. And if you see that, maybe you can. And thank you anyway, by the way, because I know it's really not NYP's, it's not your problem. You're located next to this bridge. I spent all month driving back and forth, and I took videos. And 12 minutes was the slowest, and 2 minutes was the fastest. And it's the bridge is what it is.
I have a question. for
Yeah,
Julio.
And I have my.
I'm kind of feeling like I might want to send you the, all the presentations from or point you towards, because I think they're online with the 165th Riverside Drive, like the whole analysis with there and like what they proposed and all of that, because,
You have my email.
yeah. I do.
So
I'd
Debbie,
be really interested to see it. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Debbie, I just, in terms of the last speaker, he mentioned, is it the traffic enforcement vehicle that they used was blocking a lane of traffic? Was that?
yeah, it sounds like the NYPD double parked.
Okay.
Just south of,
Yeah, so I'll address that as well. I mean, that's ridiculous. Okay.
classic, but ridiculous.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julio.
Sorry, I want to be done. Do you have anything?
Yes, and I actually remember what I wanted to say. This new building that they're building and the demolition before it, that has a budget for traffic control. So there may actually be money in that budget to improve the situation. And in fact, this building, because of its budget, might be an asset, because they can, help get the traffic under control. And I think another one of Ray's points.
You mean by design?
No, by having more bodies out there.
Well, no, but I think correct me if I'm wrong, Julio, but didn't you say that the construction side will be able to add resources to the two that you described in the security?
Well, in that case, I'm just seconding what
Yeah.
Julio said.
Correct. Right. That's absolutely correct, Debbie.
Okay. All right.
3 seconds for Julio. Is there the red signal mid-block under the bridge across Fort Washington? Does that, it seems to turn red for no reason. If it only turned red when someone pushed the button, that would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, actually, Lyle, can you unmute? Thanks.
I think it works like a regular streetlight. I don't
Yeah,
think-
no, right, but I think that's Lyle, again, it's DOT's light, it's not Julio's light.
Is this a 3-3?
Is it possible?
Cops.
3-3.
Okay, thanks. They're
Um,
better than 3-4.
so that the light, the mid-block light, so that sort of at the equivalent of 167th-ish, like, can that be on one of those sensors? Like that exists for like only when somebody needs to cross?
Yes.
Seriously, please. It's not how it works. And I'm sorry, we've got one more agenda item. Lyle, can you, yeah.
You mean just as far as turning that into a flashing red or
No.
yellow thing? Or?
You know those things like when it's like, it doesn't just go to red on a cycle?
like-
I mean, I guess the fact is it's a light for other things besides pedestrian. It's sort of theoretically no, it actually is just for pedestrian. So can it just be, like add the thing for the pedestrian crossing? So if somebody needs to get across, that they can press the button?
Yeah.
But
Green on
otherwise,
demand.
green and Fort Washington traffic keeps moving?
Right. There's one on Riverside Drive.
Yeah, no,
right at the
it
end of Grant Street.
exists. It's just not how this one was put in.
It might be something that our signals division can take a look at. If you can send me, I guess, a formal request, we can, I can ask my colleagues in our signals division to take a look. If that's a pedestrian signal, it might be doable, but we have to take a closer look.
Um,
That light could be a flashing yellow, so the traffic
Okay.
moves.
take yes for the answer. This is one of my favorite sayings. Take yes for an answer.
Would you like a motion to adjourn?
We can't, we have a revocable consent we need to do.
Oh, so, the one for you, Steve, was the
Yeah.
person
Yes.
not here.
Yes.
My thought on that, since it's, I didn't quite, there was some aspect of it I didn't quite understand from the diagram. Because they're talking about steps and a ramp, and maybe they're talking about the pre-existing steps. And, but it, you know, doesn't seem particularly controversial, and I have no problem approving it.
Yeah,
So you
let me-
move, we accept it?
Let me just pull up the pictures for responsibility, you know. So this is, and just in case some people didn't have a chance to review
Maybe
it.
you can share your screen, because
I
maybe
know.
when I see it big, it will make more
The
sense.
Yeah.
ramp, is going down to that plaza that they have.
Thank you very much,
It's not going
Thank-
down onto the sidewalk,
Thanks,
right?
Raymond.
There's that plaza that sticks out into Amsterdam Avenue. And I believe, if I looked at it correctly, that it goes into that plaza.
Yeah. I mean, how can you argue against an accessible ramp?
Yeah,
Well,
no,
I know. For a college.
If it were ugly, or, you know,
Yeah.
made it impossible to walk down the street or whatever, but it seems.
Oh, it seems like a
planned
no-brainer,
well.
just by, yeah.
Is this the building at the corner of 185th, on the southwest corner of 185th and Amsterdam? Is that the building?
I think it faces onto Amsterdam, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the entrance is on 185th. I've been in that building.
Yeah.
I actually had a class in that building. I studied relativity.
Well, that's relative.
How was that relative to this conversation?
It's
about
relative
the-
to everything. That's what they
Touche.
call relativity.
And they're taking sidewalk space or street space or?
There's a plaza there, like a pedestrian plaza.
Yeah.
That moves into Amsterdam, and then, and that's where the ramp is gonna come out of that school onto that plaza.
yeah, I mean, a revocable consent is the means by which, like, there's a request to New York City. In this case to DOT, to say, we, private institution, would like to do something and use space that belongs to all of us, right? It's city space. And we've seen these more frequently in a good way particularly for adding accessibility to a building, and the way that requirements of the ramps are such that, again, we see this a lot. We had one most recently with a church. We've had it with buildings in the medical center, you know. It happens from time to time, and so this committee needs to do a resolution that says, yes, we don't have a reason to oppose this, and that we, yeah.
And I believe
So, and again, I guess it's revocable, meaning we, in the future, reserve, you know, have the right, I guess, as New York City to say, like, we take it back. We don't want you using our sidewalk for that
I
anymore.
believe we 10 years, we have to review it again, I believe.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh, so it's possible I have not been around long enough to see one come back again.
I'm not gonna be around.
All right, so, Jim, did you want to make a motion on
I
this?
move that we approve the revocable consent that Yeshiva University is asking of the Department of Transportation or the city or whatever.
I second it.
Thank
All in favor? Unanimous vote, let it be noted. Okay, thank you. And then I always ask for maybe the person that put it together last time, the revocable consent, might that person be willing to do it one more time with this one?
If you send me the stuff.
I did send you the stuff.
Well,
Isn't that how you knew about it?
You'll have to remind me. And the other thing is, well, can you scroll up or down or something? Because in one of the pictures, it's a picture of the front of the building that's drawn. It looks like they now are gonna have revolving doors, so maybe they're gonna add or maybe I didn't understand the picture.
I think that's what it looked like.
Or maybe that, you see, those maybe, these things. I can't read it.
Hey, Jim.
They may be revolving that, and that, they may just be doors. And these stairs are already there.
I think those are doors.
They may
Can't get
just
through a
be
revolving.
doors. That was
It's
my
not
point.
EVA.
Obviously not. But, and see, this does make sense, so, and I don't know, I mean, maybe there's stairs in there also,
Jim.
No, here are the stairs because these are in red.
oh, those, yeah, but they were already there.
That's just adding the handrails, so I don't think that, yeah, so the consent probably doesn't go to that because, yeah, that's like their own.
You gotta
So
write
it's
the
just the
resolution.
stuff on the right.
Oh, that's a good point, thank you.
Yeah.
And in colors too, fancy, man.
I don't charge extra for that.
Oh.
Okay. But
And
bef-
like I said, remember to nag me.
all right, and before we adjourn, Lyle, is there anything is there anything update we should know about, anything going on from the DOT side? In CB 12?
In CB 12 in particular, nothing that I can think of, at least for this month. In general, I guess just more of an update as far as our open restaurants program, I guess now Dining Out NYC. The permanent guidelines are out. The city council has finally approved them. So if you wanted to get additional information as far as what the permanent guidelines are, we do have a website. I can send the link over to you, Debbie, in the morning, and you can, you and the committee can review. We made a presentation to Borough President's Cabinet about a week or so ago. The plan is to come to the community boards, not yet, but for the time being, like I said, you can at least see on our Dining Out NYC website what the guidelines are. And after review, if you have any additional questions, you can reach out to me, DOT, and we can answer those as they come, if anything.
All right. Well, we'll take a look, but can I just ask you, because I haven't been able to get a clear answer. If somebody's applying, if somebody decides to apply to the program as now fully specified, they kind of like have till November, like they basically can go this whole season with their old shit or what have you.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. For the time
So they
being.
have till November. So this whole emergency thing is still going to continue to November of 2024 with all manner of things in our road beds. Okay. So my question is, if I have a shed, I'm a restaurant, I have the shed, but I decided I'm not applying to that new program. Do I have to get it out in March? I think they also get to stay in the roadbed till November with all manner of things, some of them compliant, some of them not, or am I mistaken? So like, does anybody get ejected in March? Or nothing happens until we go a whole other season like this?
Well, I think you're right as far as the temporary guidelines. I have to review myself a little bit more. But I think you're right as far as the temporary rules being in effect, at least, for one more season. But on the website, at least with the permanent guidelines, the approved structures for what will be used moving forward as far as those that would be in the roadbed, the new criteria for those restaurants that want to apply for the program should also be on that site, as well as the rules ideally post November. So For right now, everything more or less is still in effect under the old guidelines, but yeah, eventually they will be phasing out into the permanent ones. I think officially more or less as of next year.
Okay. All right. All right.
So the answer was yes.
Um,
I guess.
right.
We have a hand.
Right. Okay. So Lyle,
What?
I appreciate you coming tonight. I appreciate you hanging in with us. Let's talk soon about, there's some follow-ups we wanted to do, which I don't want to do tonight. But so let's do a little planning, you and I, after this meeting. I mean, after, not as in tonight, as in meeting. And Allegra, I'm going to give you like 90 seconds. Did you have something you wanted to?
Yes,
finish?
sorry. I've been
Yeah.
remiss in not making it to the meetings this year. But I wanted to, Carmen was in the news this last week about residential parking permits. I was wondering if you guys had discussed it, and if you haven't discussed it, can we please discuss it next time? Because I know you're finishing up for tonight. I have some thoughts. The other thing I would like to bring up again is about bike transportation. I know that our major bike thoroughfare in this neighborhood technically goes to Parks Lands, but I feel like it's transportation network, so worth talking about here. They're finally going to widen the path of the Henry Hudson Bridge so that you can actually get over there. There's like a staircase that cuts it off. Like there's like a sinkhole. So there's stuff to talk about. I know we're finishing for tonight, but those two items I would very much like to talk to. I mean, I'm happy to talk to you tonight, but you probably want to go home. So I'm happy to table it for next time.
Yeah, I can't promise you we're going to take up residential parking permits again, just because, I mean, we have talked about it, but it's kind of as a little bit more of like the state would have to give permission. I mean, I know Carmen de la Rosa has, sponsored some legislation, but as far as I read, it's not going anywhere. But I duly noted, and I will give it some thought, because maybe we can do something just sort of related to congestion pricing, since it does sort of a little
so
hand in hand.
I mean,
so I don't want to get into it now. So let me think more on it, because my first answer was like,
got it. So
on what covered
I'm
what
not
we
for
needed.
the residential parking permits. I think that we need congestion pricing uptown, just to put that out there, and led by whatever Gail Brewer said in her report from 3 years ago.
Her office, when the transportation policy person, did a lot on this topic when during her time. So they had a lot of like detailed thoughts about it. And then, all right, and I'm hearing you on the bike network. So I just have to think about that. Jim?
I move we adjourn.
I'm with it.
Did I actually become a public member?
No.
No, I mean, I have we wouldn't, like, I have no idea where that is of like application and approval. Like, that doesn't actually come in front of us.
Our chair,
Yeah.
And who's that person? Because I did that like last month.
Catherine Diaz. And
Yeah.
there presumably is some kind of application you should have filled out.
I did.
All right.
Well,
Yeah, but I don't know like how quickly that gets
They've
reviewed, to be
extended the
quite
deadline
honest.
through March.
So,
And usually it
No,
takes
he's
till
talking
April
about-
or May before you find out.
No.
Seriously.
But
They had
this is New York
700,
City.
huh?
Of course, it's New
You're
York
talking
City.
about.
No, they had 700
Excuse me.
applications last year.
Just to be public member.
No,
No,
to
no.
be for all of community
No,
board
no,
membership.
that's not what he's talking about.
No,
He's
I'm
talking about being a
being
public member.
of This committee.
but I
So
don't know
Catherine
how
could do
she's
that without
handling.
going through
Absolutely,
Mark's. Okay,
yeah.
I stand
And they
corrected.
said anyone gets in, they just stamp it.
No, that's not true.
Well, that's.
I don't know
That's
who
what it
told
says
you
on the
that.
website.
No,
That's not even remotely.
And the other thing is, if you become a public member, you are part of our quorum, so if you don't attend, you will cause us not to have a quorum.
Well, 2 for 2. So
Yeah, that's right.
So,
That's right. That makes
Well, no,
sense.
and again, I don't doubt that Catherine will do it, but it's certainly not automatic.
Yeah, and I don't know
Website
what's
seemed
been
to
going
say
on because
it's
we
de facto.
haven't, I don't think any of us have gotten public members in a
No.
while. And anyway, we are adjourned.
I'm just curious of who the other people are here. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I'm a journalism student at the new school and we're working on community engagement. So we're like working to sit in on community boards to pick up story ideas.
oh, okay, interesting.
Well, it was a great night because as I
Yes,
said,
yeah. No, I know.
we don't always, there were like at the peak, I think we had 40 or 50 people on the attendee list. Were you watching it on the?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's
you-
one thing about the Zoom era has allowed us to have that more engagement, but on the other hand,
together?
I miss people having in the room.
No, I'm a politics major at the new school, so we go to the same school, but I've been taking a special interest in like local community governments because I'm on my own student government board. And she said that she was coming to this, and I thought it would be really fun. So I could further my major because I have an internship in DC this semester, and I was like, I wanna get a hold of local politics before I go to such a large scale level.
Right, you thought this was fun, and you're right.
Right, guys, I'm gonna end the Zoom. Thank you again for everybody being here. You can still talk, Efred. I'm
We can
just
talk
adjourning the
after we
meeting. part.
Political
Yeah,
science major and a working journalist.
Julio, thank you so
Oh.
much. Lyle, thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Debbie, again. We'll be in touch and we can touch base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 or 3 days.
Definitely.
See.
All right,
Okay, we'll
bye.
be, if anything, I'll reach out to you tomorrow and we can figure it out.
Meredith,
Okay,
everything that
thank
happened
you.
at this meeting.